Jason, hello, good morning, my friend.
Good morning.
Thank you for being with us, my friend. Really appreciate it.
Pleasure.
Here we are, Jason. 5 years on. How does that feel, Jason? To think it's been 5 years without Bowie.
Well, it kind of seems like yesterday when I heard the news, and obviously for me, working on the 87 of David Bowie podcast and doing the website around it, it's still very much, David Bowie's still very much part of my life, because we're still doing things around all the stuff that he created.
I'll bet. Okay, so there are a lot of things I want to pick your brain on here, Jason.
Okay, sure.
Let's start with his legacy. Has it changed in the 5 years? Where does it sit now, 5 years on?
Well, obviously, there's a huge kind of back catalogue of work, of just, incredible songwriting. He has a great gift for, chord and melody. And if it was just that alone, it would be legendary, He carried on to the end of his life creating songs. But, I know it's a cliche, but to use the term iconic, but he really was. He kind of bestrode not just music, but fashion and art and film, and it's an incredible career. And I think, he'll go down as one of those great stars, of the 20th century.
Do you think it's aging well?
Yes, yeah, definitely. If you write a great song with a great tune and a great melody, that's always going to age well, because things like that don't change. Beethoven ages well because he wrote great melodies.
Yeah,
he's still with us. If the substance in what you do, fashions may change, times may change, but that substance will remain.
Yeah, and I suppose that the sort of cycle of culture and politics means that a lot of the stuff that he's talked about in his music still stands. There are bits that you can pick out that are relevant to today. And one of the things I'm really interested in, Jason, not to want to sort of put words in Bowie's mouth necessarily.
Yeah, sure.
But it's how he would have responded to the big events since his death. It feels like, for somebody who was so brilliant at cultural commentary, and to a degree political commentary, in a sense, in a roundabout way, the things that have happened since his death, it feels like such a shame he isn't here to chart those moments. We're talking big movements like Brexit and Trump, and also the pandemic and things. How do you think his artistic response would have been to the last 5 years?
Yeah, well, he would often write songs not overtly that were kind of political, but he'd often find metaphors for them. But, so it's often people think he's singing about aliens and space. Well, in fact, if you look at the songs, they're really about feelings of isolation and feeling different, feeling alienated. So I think, he'd have created things which were interesting artistically, create takes on them, but in a kind of, he kind of use a kind of metaphoric way, find some sort of metaphor that captures these times. And I'm sure he would have wrote some great, interesting songs around, whatever's happening in the world.
What would he have made of this last 12 months, do you think?
It's hard to say, because obviously a later part of his life, he very much kind of kept in, he started creating music again, but he still remained very much kind of not the sort of public rock star anymore, much more a private rock star. So it wouldn't have changed his habits as much as if it had been the young David Bowie, which was constantly out there performing live, he was a clever, sensible man. I think he'd have just responded like any rational person would do, and just did his best to, he'd have sort of locked himself in the studio probably and made some music, done what he does best.
He wouldn't have been an anti-masker then, it's probably fair to say.
I don't think so. He was a smart guy. He was a rational guy, and I've got friends who knew him, and he was a good guy.
Yeah. William?
I'm always curious when we talk about icons and stars and legends as to the sort of the lasting impact that they have on the same industry that they exited from today. And I guess my question is, who do you think are his biggest musical influences today? I guess, where do you think in terms of the charts that he sort of is influencing even now and perhaps we're not even aware of?
Yeah, I think one of his biggest influences was the idea of creating a rock star persona, and then very much living that life. The idea that you can, it's people think like Lady Gaga and stuff like that, and the idea that music and fashion and video and all these things are all part of one big kind of package almost. And I think, he kind of created that mold of the kind of all-encompassing rock star.
Yeah. He had every string, didn't he, really, to his bow. It was the ultimate entertainer, the ultimate performer. And you mentioned there that he was very clever and very forward-thinking. I've got a clip here that often does the rounds of Bowie talking.
The internet.
Yes, this is the internet one.
Yes.
This is the internet one. Yeah, I'm absolutely spot on. Yeah. And so this is him talking to Jeremy Paxman on Newsnight in 1999. The internet had sort of just emerged as a concept at that point, really, and so people were using email and things like that. But for the most part, I mean, the cultural impact that the internet was going to have on our life just could not have been foreseen at that point, apart from by David Bowie. Here's that clip.
I don't think we've even seen the tip of the iceberg. I think the potential of what the internet is going to do to society, both good and bad, is unimaginable. I think we're actually on the cusp of something exhilarating and terrifying.
It's just a tool, though, isn't it?
No, it's not. No, it's an alien life form.
What do you think? I mean, when you think then about
is there life on Mars? Yes, it's just landed here.
But it's simply a different delivery system there. You're arguing about something more profound.
Oh yeah, I'm talking about the actual context and the state of content is going to be so different to anything that we can really envisage at the moment, where the interplay between the user and the provider will be so in simpatico. It's going to crush our ideas of what mediums are all about.
And people weren't saying that really at that point, were they? Jamie, that right there, sorry, Jason, that is that right there is a perfect example of the intellect of the man and how important that intellect was to creating his art and to being the Bowie that we know, right?
Yeah, I mean, he was a voracious reader. He was constantly reading all the time about religion, art, philosophy, science, all this sort of stuff. And he was always very forward-thinking. He was always looking to the future. And only, he was probably the only sort of musician I know who started his own internet service provider. You could back in the 90s have, if you were in the right area, have your internet provided by BowieNet.
Wow.
I tried to sign up to it, but I was in the wrong place because back then it was pretty much AOL or anything. But BowieNet still exists as a website now. But he was the first artist to release a song digitally.
Was he really?
Yes, yeah, way back before you've got like Spotify and all this kind of and iTunes and stuff. He released a song online. So he very early on, sort of talking 90s here, early 90s, grasped the potential of what the internet could do and what it was capable of, and being a sort of double-headed sword, how it had potential for both to educate, illuminate, and spread malcontent and things.
Yeah, he was completely spot on, wasn't he? I cannot help keep thinking what he would have made of the last 5 years. I mean, it just feels like there's no good time for David Bowie to die, is there?
To dip into, there's so much that has gone on. There's so much rife for commentary and stuff like that. Obviously, it would have been great to have somebody as insightful as that producing some commentary around it. I think it would have provided great inspiration. It took inspiration from lots of sources.
For sure. I mean, there's no good time for David Bowie to die, but the start of 2016 just felt like a particularly bad time, didn't it, for him to die?
It felt like he was secretly holding the fabric of the universe together in that year. Because not only was like that year Brexit and Trump, it was also the year that lots of famous people died, and Bowie was kind of, it was in January that he passed away. He kind of started the ball rolling.
He did. He really did. He tore a hole in the fabric of the universe on his way out, didn't he?
Yeah, he was still influencing, but unfortunately, death in 2016.
Yeah, totally. Listen, Jess, it's been a real pleasure to talk to you, my friend. Thank you so much for your time. If people want to get your podcast and check out your website and bathe in some Bowie nostalgia on the anniversary of his death, where can they do that, Jason?
Obviously, we've got a podcast that we did with Radio City's Mark Riley and Rob Hughes, which you can find on iTunes, Spotify, and so if you want to, obviously you can go and listen to the songs, and you can find those anywhere, Spotify, the usual outlets are available. But if you want to find a bit more about his life, there's actually 72 episodes. I know it's A to Z, and started off thinking it would be 26, but it was just such a huge career that it ended up, some letters had 9 or 10 episodes devoted to them. Right, so it's about over 40 hours of talk about his whole life. So that's kind of, what I've been doing recently.
Good man. Good stuff.
So you can find that 87 podcast anywhere you like.
Good man. All right, great. Sounds great, Jason. Really nice to talk to you this morning. Thank you so much, Jason Reed with us.